What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful, here with a name you know. We got Shayna Baszler. How you doing, Shayna?
These are old part of the routine now.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get to interview you for like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, now
And
it's every time.
It's
every
like
pay-per-view.
every time. I just want to let you know I did not beat Shaza McKenzie.
You didn't listen to me.
I didn't listen to you.
Yeah.
I think you instructed me give her at least 10 staples in the head.
Yeah, she can take a lot of damage, I know.
She hit me with a kendo stick repeatedly.
Yeah, that doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good at all.
I'd rather get hit with a chair 100 times than a kendo stick,
in
my opinion.
Well, especially when you've discussed beforehand, this is where the kendo stick shots are going to be, and then you get one right to the back of the head. But make that a lesson to anybody. Just listen to Shayna. Just listen to Shayna. But since we've talked last, there's been a TKO merger where UFC, WWE are under the same umbrella. You are the perfect example of the hybrid of all that exists there. And there's been a lot of interesting crossover, with Josh Barnett's Bloodsport and stuff like that in the past. Would you ever be interested in doing something like that, like cross-promotional with UFC fighters or anything like that, to maybe have the type of match that you and Ronda had last year with maybe an active UFC star?
Well, so it's interesting because the timing of all that happening was a little bit just off enough that we were trying to kind of work on some sort of maybe cross promotion with that whole match, but it's just the timing was off and just everything else going into that. But yeah, it's like you said, I've always proclaimed, even when I was fighting, that all of this is pro wrestling.
Yes.
People don't understand a lot of times what that means. I'm not claiming that one is more real than the other. What I'm saying is this is all entertainment, and at the roots of pro wrestling was MMA. And so I think it's cool because my whole thing, if you follow my YouTube and interviews and stuff, has been to wave this banner of the history of pro wrestling and how MMA and pro wrestling have they come from this shared same place. And so I think this whole thing makes this a lot easier for me to kind of spread the history, the glories of the pro wrestling of old. And I think, it's the opportunities are out there. I'm here, so let's do it.
Is there anybody that you've trained with that's been like, all right, let's do some more WWE style stuff in practice, in training, and you've been like, you're taking to this very well, like almost to a surprising level. I remember the first time I went and trained with Jessamine, she was like, I don't like that pro wrestling stuff. Then me and her team got in there, and I was like, you'd be really good at it if you wanted to do it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's funny to say, and I'm not just joking, but anybody that trained with Josh, just based on especially for Josh and coming from the lineage I come from with Billy and all that, pro wrestling is very important to Josh. It's not just another thing to do to make some money. There's a very important reason for it, and so I think in saying that, when you train with Josh, whether you know it or not, you're training for pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And so, the style that I wrestle, you could compare it to people that train with Josh. If you look at Jessamine's pro wrestling and Marina even, we all train with Josh, and you can see it in our work, very similar styles. So I would pick anybody on the team. I'd be like, yeah, we could do it, The old UWF USA.
It always makes me smile a little bit when there's Billy Robinson references to your matches, and there's a direct correlation to the number of times he's mentioned on TV now to when you came to the forefront of pro wrestling. How does that make you feel that you continue that on American TV, and it's a successful style?
Well, it's, I've just talked about how important wrestling is to Josh, and Josh is like a martial arts father to me. He's a role model of mine. And so in saying that, it's very important that I also carry on this tradition and wave this banner of catch wrestling and what pro wrestling, what Billy and Josh really believed pro wrestling to be. And I struggle with it sometimes because obviously this is a different era than UWFI.
Sure.
But, when I can do things like what Ronda and I did at SummerSlam, I get the feeling that, Billy would be proud of something like that. So, that stuff's all important to me, and I'm proud of that.
Is there anybody that you've been in there with and you've chained around with or anything, and you're like, okay, this is surprising. You kind of got it.
You know what's funny about that? All the Joshi girls pretend they don't know much. And that, like, I was in Japan wrestling on the indies, and there was one day, like, Io was in charge of the dojo, right?
Yeah.
And there was one day she was like, Shayna, please teach us some submissions. So I'm teaching submissions, and then, like, to end the training period, I just had everyone kind of sit back to back. The timer would start and turn around and try to do the submissions. And she was like doing stuff I didn't teach. And I'm like, you're a ringer. Like, you know stuff. Like, they all know. I mean, anybody that follows wrestling knows that in Japan they learn a little bit different about pro wrestling than they do here. At least back when I was there. But yeah. It's any of the Joshis know what they're doing more than they let on.
Last question. I know that the Ronda match was something that was important to you all. I had heard there were like some almost venue restrictions on what you guys could and couldn't do. Like, there were elements of like maybe a cage that could have been involved that weren't implemented because of the venue. How did that work out?
Yeah, I won't lie. It was a little bit, the idea we had, we were a little bit handcuffed just based on the venue. You know, there was no Tron. So we knew the people in-house were going to have trouble kind of understanding maybe some of the stuff going on, because you need a camera.
Sure.
You need a close-up of that. We couldn't get like a cage or a fight pit in there because the rigging in a dome situation is totally different. There was a lot. We tried to work out some other things. It just didn't work out, but we did the best we could, you know, with what we had, and I'm proud of it.
Shayna, it's always good to talk to you. Becoming a regular thing at this point. Until next time, guys, we're out.
I'm traveling a lot, and when you travel, you got to protect your data. You got to protect your privacy online. NordVPN.com/Fightful allows me to do that, allows me to browse safely and securely. When you go to an airport, when you go to an arena, a restaurant, a hotel, you're usually connecting to that unsecured Wi-Fi, which leaves you susceptible to having your data stolen, any number of things taken from your private connection, or what should be your private connection. NordVPN.com/Fightful makes it a private connection with the fastest VPN in the world, a 30-day money-back guarantee, and a ton of other features in addition to that peace of mind that you get when you can browse safely and securely. And I'm talking all your devices: Surface Pro, laptop, desktop, PC, smart TV, router, phone, whatever you're taking with you. NordVPN.com/Fightful will add extra layers of security to your digital life. You can get a password manager, a file encryption tool. Be safe, be smart. NordVPN.com/Fightful.